CARNEY, Stephanie Levitz with the Globe and Mail. We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you don't know what's happening to them going forward, but you knew what they were going into that blind trust. So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the Ethics Commissioner. I'm following them well in advance of any of the requirements, as you know, because I know you know this. You know that these requirements come into effect in months. We're talking days after I became Prime Minister. So I'm complying with the rules of the Ethics Commissioner, going through the processes and all these things that are necessary.
The rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
Someone who spent most of his life in the private sector, there's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. That's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country. I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. And I will continue to comply with those rules.
Mark Carney seems to be every single thing that the left say that they hate. So why is he their top choice? Welcome back to the Freedom Pines podcast. I'm your host, Jamie A.B. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So let's dive in. First of all, I just want to say that Justin Trudeau, I'm calling it now, that Justin Trudeau is going to be in his influencer era. Okay, he already uploaded a photo of him at Canadian Tire. I hope he realizes how much crap costs in Canada, okay, now that he gets to do his own shopping. And normally Canadians would be celebrating in the streets that Justin Trudeau was gone, had we have had an election, okay? When Rosemary Barton questions you and doesn't like you, I just need you guys to understand something, that when the media doesn't like you in Canada, nobody's going to like you in Canada, because the media controls everything. That's whatever the media is saying, that's what the narrative will be. And for some reason, they really seem to not like Mark Carney. It's very strange to me because they never really pushed Trudeau to disclose all of his special interests, but I digress. You know, it's nice to see the mainstream media actually doing their job for the first time in what I've seen about, 10 years. I have no idea what relationship Justin Trudeau had with the CBC, but it seemed to be a tight one, because they are not holding back when it comes to Mark Carney, in my opinion, and I love to see it. But if he doesn't smarten up and become more likable, he can kiss his election down the drain. No matter how much they're gonna, bus a certain demographic of people to the polls and tell them to vote for Mark Carney, okay? I'm still sitting here in shock that the Liberals actually pick someone who was everything that they say that they hate once again. Okay, because tell me why they're pretending that Mark Carney's, experience as governor of Bank of Canada and government of Bank of UK, or wherever he was, Britain, why that would ever surpass actual experience as a politician when it comes to being in a job as a politician. Okay, because once again, I'm gonna remind you guys that the media has convinced Canadians that something as inspiring as wanting to work for the people of Canada is, because here's the thing, not all politicians want to be greedy assholes. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have met people who I know are not like that. Okay? And they have convinced, the left has, I mean, somehow they think they've convinced people that Mark Carney is the choice, even though, despite him being a globalist, elitist, banker, literally a CEO of all of these different companies. And they always say conservatives invest, all they care about is their, stakeholders. All they care about is their big business friends. When it's a Doug Ford who's trying to invest in Canada and he invests in maybe his friend's business or whatever, that is a problem. But when Mark Carney does it, it's not a problem. And he says, well, what conflicts of interest? Well, sir, maybe the fact that you've been whispering in Trudeau's ear about how good green energy is, and your company owning all of the green energy stuff, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big conflict of interest. Because for those of us that know, we know that the tax is not doing anything except for incentivizing us not to use carbon. And what does that equal? It's incentivizing us to literally not do anything. Using carbon is every single thing that you can imagine you use carbon for. We are the carbon they seek to eliminate. I have said it before and I'll say it again. This has become some sort of cult, because I will see all day today about Pierre pulling out of the industrial carbon tax and, so we just don't have any plan? How about you give tax breaks to companies who are doing environmentally friendly things? How about that? How about we give tax breaks to farmers so that we're more incentivized to buy local? How about we give tax breaks to gardeners like me, or provide gardening seeds and garden tools and soil for people who are, gardening? Why don't we teach gardening as a mandatory class in our schools? Why don't we give tax breaks to people who have one income or one person who stays at home? Why don't we give tax breaks to people who work around the corner from their job? Why do we have to put a tax and put people into poverty to save the planet? Why don't we put greenhouses in every community? That way we could have to import way less from Mexico or America. Okay, still some, obviously, but still have, a fresh supply of vegetables in every community. How about stuff like that? Because electric cars is a facade. Okay, any way that we're getting energy from the earth is going to harm it in no matter what. And these people would rather we get dirty oil from up in the Middle East that's slaved than actually just have ethical oil be here. They'd rather the Middle East get, drilled and whatever the hell, mined or whatever. But Canada is a no. Don't touch Canada. Sure, guys, that makes a lot of sense to me. And you guys have to know that if you put the climate above humanity, that's a cult, okay? And while I do think that we should be doing everything we can to save not save the environment, I would just say be environmentally friendly, because God gave us this beautiful green earth in this country, and we should obviously be taking care of it. And we obviously know that if we don't have regulations, companies can just come in and give whole communities cancer if they want. So I understand why regulations exist, but the ones that we've had have been arbitrary and very DEI. It has deterred business from opening up here. Now, here's the thing. The left are always like, in my comments, mini Trump, here's a mini Trump. Okay, Mr. Executive Ass Order. Okay. Because where have I seen that before? You cut the consumer carbon tax. Okay, that does nothing for the price of food, because that means that Walmart is still going to have to pay the carbon tax. And it's going to fall back onto us, per usual, as we know it does. I cannot wait to watch Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney debate, because it is becoming more and more clear to me. Obviously, I've said this before, that Mark Carney is not good at this. He is not good at this, and I do think that for a long time he debated on running. I think it was the plan all along, but I think that there probably was times where he's like, do I really have to open myself up like this? Like, this is, once you are in the public eye, you are opening up a fucking can of worms when it comes to your life. Trust me. Okay. I had some lefty in my comments being like, your online footprint was easy to find. Okay, did you look in my link tree? Like, yes, it was, of course it's easy to find. I am a content creator. Okay, fine. You know what that means. They wanted to call my employers and get me fired, per usual. I'm also reading just now, under CARNEY and Trudeau's $660 billion in energy projects were canceled or suspended, killing 100,000 jobs and wiping out 20 billion years in revenue. 20 billion a year in revenue. Yeah, that's exactly it. When I had all of that money stolen from me and the price of things just started going up, I literally did not accept that this was just bad luck on my part. I said, there's no way that for the past 5 years, I have just been down on my luck. Okay? And I knew that because I was forced and coerced into taking something I didn't want to, and I knew that that was not right and it was not okay. And then it spiraled from there. Like, what do you mean I can't afford solar panels? I thought you guys wanted me to have solar panels. Well, solar panels are expensive because they come in from China, because no one wants to open up business in Canada to make solar panels here because it's too expensive. So we have to import them from China and other places. But when we do that, we've put 100% tariffs on that. So yes, you want to afford green energy? Sorry about your luck. Yeah, there has been such a sequence of events that have happened to me that have opened and peeled back the layers of how much this government has failed us. And to know that Mark Carney has been behind almost every single decision is just, it blows my mind, okay? I honestly don't know when Canadians are going to realize it, but the Liberals are one giant elitist club and we are not invited to it. I did not vote Justin Trudeau even when I was a hardcore leftist, because I knew that he was the biggest, that he was only in the place that he was because he was a Nepo baby. And I refused to vote for someone who was that privileged. I could tell who Justin Trudeau was. Like, do I say he was a good actor? Yes, he was a good actor. But I could tell that who Justin Trudeau was immediately. I clocked him immediately. I thought, he is a spoiled bastard who has never been through anything in his life. And if anything, he has probably been shroomed, if you know what I mean, into this position. And he has no giving a about any Canadian. Any average day Canadian, Justin Trudeau never seems like he cared about us, in my opinion. I voted NDP and Green, much like I'm assuming that the NDP and Green voters are doing now. And by thinking that the Liberals, and knowing that the Liberals are elitists, okay, they know. It's just very confusing because we're not seeing it on YouTube, because YouTube does not have the same type of influence that TikTok does when it comes to just the reach, okay? AKA, people will believe anything that's in a 3-minute video that has some Canva visuals behind it. They'll believe anything, okay? So I'm just letting you guys know what I've seen over on TikTok, because you go on TikTok, you would think Mark Carney's in the lead. I'm not kidding. You watch the media and you're like, oh, not even the media likes them. That's kind of weird. So to answer my own question, why was this the Liberals' top pick? Well, because it's just the globalist final boss, you guys. Someone who can get up there and admit that he is a globalist and an elitist and still get any votes, let alone however many that he got, okay? It's just so obvious to me that the average Liberal voter these days is, like, I'm just going to throw this out here, and I think NDP as well, that people wonder who's voting for these people. People who have no idea what it was like during Harper, okay? Seniors who watch the news all the time and think what they tell them is true. Okay, well, they might not be anymore, because not even Rosemary Barton likes Mark Carney. And who else do I think is voting left still? People who went through nothing during the pandemic, had no consequences or side effects to the you-know-whats. None of their lives seemed impacted. There's, in fact, a lot of people on the left who probably preferred to be home alone all the time. So I genuinely think there's a bunch of Canadians out there who did not go through a single thing, and they are sitting so pretty financially that it just makes sense for them to be voting left, because, you know, they've been told that conservatives take away their rights and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, they're not struggling financially at all. So why wouldn't they? Or they believe it's fully CEOs. that are making our products so expensive, rather than just looking into the tariffs and the taxes. And probably the CEOs, the ones that meet up with at Davos with all of our politicians. Yeah. He's in because he's the globalist final boss, and that's all there is to it. So, way to go, liberals. Way to show us how much you do give a shit about diversity, equity, and inclusion when you dismiss the only people of color who were running and then didn't vote for the only other 2 women. Yeah, we see your true colors, and they shine bright almost every single day. And despite there being so many crazy leftists or bots in my comments on TikTok telling me that I don't know, I didn't pass civics, blah, blah, blah. You know what they like to say, all that nonsense. Despite all that, we'll see. We'll see. I had a friend, we were doing a live last night, and she said that she thinks that the States is going to, or that Mark Carney's going to win. I'm like, I don't even think we'll have an election. I know a lot of people don't like that I say that. But I'll believe it when I see it. Truly, I'll believe it when I see it, because they have not been truthful in the slightest when it comes to when we are getting an election. It's actually so pathetic. I don't know how the left can defend this type of democracy. Let's have an election and see who wins. But they will never, ever, ever say anything about, well, they do. They're like, well, you had a chance in 2021. No, I didn't. No, I didn't, because my grandma was dying in the hospital. It's actually the only time I've never voted. So, because we had an election during a deadly pandemic. Quote, deadly. I would say it was deadly because, never mind. Anyways, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about this? Like, why do you think Rosemary is all of a sudden going after Mark Carney? Do you think Mark Carney is going to win? Who do you guys think is going to win the next election? And do you think we're going to get one this week? Do you guys think they're going to call an election? Yes or no? I wish there was a place that we could go in on a lottery for it, because I genuinely don't think that we're going to get one. Okay? I would love to be proved wrong. So, I would love to have high hopes for a living, but I live in Canada, so whatever. Anyways, if you guys are still here, thanks so much. I love you guys, and I am out of here. Have a good one.